Hello guys and welcome to the Parc'd Up podcast by the wonderful ladies behind Parc'd, a place which is built by women for everybody to involve more inclusivity into the wonderful world of motorsport. I say that worked.
Yeah, that's good.
We're just here like,
Yeah.
You're doing amazing, girl.
You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Good.
Yeah, so I feel like we should go over a little bit about Parc'd Up, what it is. Introduce ourselves a bit. I'm Alice.
Hi, I'm Celeste.
I'm Naomi.
And I'm Katie.
Katie really did not want to go third there. She was like, no, I'm going last, I'm going last.
I was you looking to do it.
Okay, so the order is going to be Alice, Celeste, me, Katie.
Yeah.
You know what?
Cool.
I'm going to balls it up and I'm going to put our cameras wherever I feel like putting it. So it's just going to be like ding, 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 ding. Ring, a ding, a ding, a ding, a ding.
Yes.
So, yeah, everything that you find on Parc'd will be anything, any motorsport that you can find at Parc'd. That's the whole twist on it, because we want to cover all ranges of motorsport, because between the four of us, we have a very large knowledge on different worlds of motorsport. Like, I could tell you pretty much most things about Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, W Series, Formula E, dabble a bit in, like, MotoGP, but only because I started rewatching it this year, but not a lot. And then you have Celeste, who's into everything.
Yeah, more endurance racing, I guess, is also my thing. A lot of endurance racing, obviously Formula 1, Formula 3, all FIA series, IndyCar. I really love IndyCar. More of the American races. I do watch some NASCAR sometimes. Yeah, just like Alice, I crossed over to MotoGP this year, so still learning, but it's fun.
We held hands and crossed over together this year. And
yeah, we were like, let's do it.
So if you hear us talking about our favourite drivers and favourite teams, it's purely because we both decided that if we wanted to start watching it, we at least needed someone to support.
Yeah.
And we just opened up a list, and as a Mercedes fan, I was like, oh my god, Monster Energy team. I love Monster Energy. Mercedes is sponsored by Monster Energy. I'm picking that team. And then Celeste went, oh my god, Italian, man.
Yeah,
So
the full Italian team, so I had to go with that.
Our information on it is slim, but it's there.
Very.
And then you
We're
have
getting there.
Naomi, who's a massive MotoGP nerd.
Yeah.
Literally a dictionary.
Yeah, it's true. I'm quite lucky because I watch like all of them. Like I watch MotoGP, Moto2, and Moto3, and then I'm able to watch like F1 like all at the same time. I watch, F1 and all the feeder series. IndyCar I also love to watch. Luckily, they're all at like different time zones, which is amazing. Which gives me time just to watch like all of them. So yeah, IndyCar as well. I've recently watched a lot of IMSA this year. My favorite driver went over to that series, so wanted to give it a go. Love it. Again, WEC, GT World Challenge. Love endurance racing, everything about it. Formula E. We're all invested in Formula E.
Yeah,
equal amounts.
Very much.
And yeah, BSB, all those kind of things.
I'd do like Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3. But sort of my big one is like the British touring cars series, and they're supporting races. So it's like the British Formula 4, the Mini Challenge, the Porsches. They have some there. Yes, that's sort of mainly my thing. I'm sort of lucky now that I've got different jobs that hopefully next season, I should be able to sort of do all the races in the season. That's sort of my goal, all of them next year. So I should be a bit more informed because hopefully I'll be there.
She's our little Brands Hatch queen.
Yeah. No,
She's our little, I'm always like, yeah, I live so close to like Snetterton. Snetterton?
Yeah.
Snetterton.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Is that how it's pronounced?
I think so.
Yeah,
That's how I say it.
Yeah, it's Snetterton.
Thank you. I was like, Snetterton. You're like, Snetterton? I'm like, oh shit, have I said that wrong? And then Katie's like, yeah, I live like 5 minutes down the road from Brands Hatch. And I'm like, okay, one up me, why don't you? We are all from very, very different parts as well, from like around the world. So you will notice different accents here and there, because I'm from Norfolk, home of Martin Brundle and George Russell, but literally the home of Martin Brundle and George Russell. you've got Katie, who is from Brands Hatch, basically birthed on the racetrack.
On the track.
On the
On the
track. You've got Naomi, who's Welsh.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought she was Scottish to start off with, but the flag reaffirmed it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I made a joke.
And then Celeste is Dutch. I know if you're watching this on the YouTube, looking at Celeste's camera, she would not look Dutch.
yeah.
Basically
You know.
Italian.
Yeah, I'm basically Italian. but-
Basically Italian.
Yeah.
For association.
So how did everyone get into motorsport? Like, how did each of you get into, like, the different parts of motorsport that you're into?
For me, it started with my dad. He watched it
King
every
Harold.
single Sunday. Yeah, King Harold. To be fair, he was only in Formula One, so he only watched the Formula One races. And then, as I grew up, I started to get more interest in like all the other series and all the other classes we have, and I just got addicted so fast. It's just within a year, I think I watched more than 10 series, and I loved it. Absolutely, yeah. It's been crazy.
It makes sense though, because you're so close to the track,
Mm,
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Zandvoort
so-
literally shows everything.
everything.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I can go to the track with the bike, and I just came there since I've been a little child. I remember my parents like literally pushing me up the hill because I wasn't be able to walk myself back then, and they just pushed me up into the dune. So we just watched the racing there all day long. So yeah, I grew up with it basically.
Aw. I also grew up with it, but mine was more of a disappointment to my mother that I was birthed the opening weekend of the race of the race season, of the Formula One season. She was a massive Michael Schumacher obsessed, loved Michael Schumacher. So it was literally every weekend the F1 was on, I was in front of the TV watching the F1. And then she stopped watching it when Michael Schumacher retired, because she kind of felt like that connection with her and F1 was gone because of like how much she loved Michael, and with all the regulation changes and stuff, she didn't feel like connected to it anymore. So I was basically forced to stop watching it. I say reasonably young. I was like, what? How old was I in 20? I was 14. I was going into my GCSEs at the time, so I was like just focused on my GCSEs. And then started keeping up to date with all the highlights for feeder series, because obviously George Russell was competing in feeder series, and literally being from the same place he's from, the entirety of the news is about this wonder kid that's going to make it to F1. Like, we haven't had someone do so well in motorsport since like Martin Brundle to go up, and George is the closest we'll have to having a world champion from where we're from. So it was every day, like, we always watch the news like after dinner, like it's always on, and it was always George Russell this, George Russell that, George Russell this. So I was like, I know I liked it, like I knew I enjoyed watching racing, so I keep up to date with like the feeder series and stuff like that on YouTube. And then when I figured out how to watch the race without having Sky, I then just started watching it all the time. I do pay for Sky now. Sky, if you're listening, I do pay every month. Every month I pay £20 just to watch the
We're
race
all
cars.
legal watchers here.
We are all legal watchers.
We are.
Yes.
I promise.
Yep.
Naomi,
Yeah.
you want to go next?
For me, it all happened like so quickly. So in like lockdown in 2020, I kind of like dabbled a bit. And it was like just as we were coming out of lockdown. I think it was like either the Hungarian Grand Prix or like the Styrian Grand Prix when they did the double weekend in Austria. It was just on my TV. I was home. I was bored. I missed sports, and I was like, oh, I'll just put it on, like whatever. And it was only a free practice session, so it wasn't like anything that important. But I instantly fell in love with it like so quickly. And through that whole day I was watching Formula 2 and Formula 3 instantly. And then the next weekend, I think it was like a break weekend, one of the only like break weekends we had during that COVID like run of races. and MotoGP was on, and I was like, oh, I'll give this a go, and just instantly loved it. It's something that like I was really surprised how like I forget that I haven't been into it for that long. We were talking about the Singapore
Me
Grand
too,
Prix.
sometimes.
Yeah, we were
You have
talking
so
about
much knowledge.
yeah, we were talking about the Singapore Grand Prix, and I was like, yeah, I've never seen that live. Like I've never seen that live, and it's that kind of weird thing. But I get invested quickly. I love it, and sports is just always that kind of thing. And then I started watching it with my family more often. This year we went to Silverstone for F1 and MotoGP. Obviously, then we went to London for Formula E. So it's just yeah, perfect.
So I started watching Formula One when I was younger. I must have been sort of 3 or 4 when I first watched it, because like my dad would have it on the TV when we'd be eating our Sunday roast. So I just kind of got into it, and then my favorite man, Jenson Button, Alice knows, my favorite driver. So that's sort of where my sort of like McLaren being my sort of home team. Ignore the jumper. McLaren being my home team. My own team sort of stemmed from sort of that whole thing. They'll always be my team in regarding the whole sort of Daniel Ricciardo stuff at the moment. I
Don't worry,
won't say I'm
relatable.
proud of what they're doing. Yeah, can't say I'm not proud of what they're doing, but they're still my team. But yeah, so when I started doing my A levels and started like having like a weekend job, it just meant that I sort of drifted away from the sport because I couldn't watch it sort of live and didn't have time to sort of watch the races afterwards. And then lockdown came around, so I was just kind of like, why not? It's a prime opportunity, prime time to get back into sort of watching a sport that I grew up watching and loved. And yeah, sort of went back to a job working a Sunday, but thought, "Do you know what? Sleep's just sleep. I'll sit there and I'll watch the highlights. I'll watch the race again."
Yeah.
And then yeah, living so close to brands, it's sort of like that's my track. Knowing that sort of like Formula One used to race there, they can't anymore, but then I was kind of like, oh, I'll watch the touring cars because it's quite a big thing in the UK. Like it is our sort of like our home like series. So I was like, oh, I'll go watch like the weekend, and yeah, fell in love with it because it's so different in the sense of like the championship. So it's a more tightly like contested championship. So they're going into sort of the second to last race weekend of the season with 6 drivers going for the championship. And they've already said that they're going to go into sort of like the last 3 rounds, which are at brands in the start of October, and they're going to be those 6 drivers going for the championship in those 3 races. So it's not like anyone can sort of come off the throttle because they've won it already. It's going to be racing for the championship. So yeah, I just think that one is sort of, for me, it's my sort of series. I get very protective over it.
It's your little comfort series.
Yeah, it's my little comfort series. Yeah,
Yeah.
but also Formula E sort of. I think I started watching it season 2, season 3. So it was like when they were still sort of like establishing it as a series, but it was all very much like everyone going, well, it's an electric race and it's not going to pick up, and sort of here we are now. It's an actual established world championship and first ever Dutch world champion. It's not Max Verstappen.
Nick de
Nick de Vries,
Vries.
our king.
See, I got into
Spot-
Formula E so late. Like,
Yeah.
I say feel so late. I got into it in 2019 because I don't know why I'd never heard of it. I just think it's because like I was like F1, F2, F3 every week. Like, you know, like that's my drill. And I was working, and my boyfriend at the time was very, very much into motorsport as well. So like we would just watch, you know, it was just F1, and like that was pretty much it. He wasn't even interested in feeder series, so like I don't think I ever like pretty much ventured further than that until it was 2019, and this is like prime, like, you know, this little era of early 2019 is the reason now why we're all friends pretty much as well.
Yeah.
And it was just because my cousin was like, hey, I really like the F2 driver Callum a lot. He's my favorite driver and he streams. Like, can you come into a stream with me? Because I feel really nervous to go in there, and I feel really nervous to talk to people. So I was like, yeah, sure. Because I'm not bothered by that. Like, I'll happily go in a chat and just tip tap away to people. Went in, started talking in his chat, made some really, really good friends out of there, literally people who I'm still friends with to this day. And I remember we were all in his Discord server because we were creating our own Minecraft server. And they were like, oh, like, you know, I would play tonight, but the Formula E's on. And I was like, what's that? And they were like, no, come watch it. So, like, that was my first season then, was because they were like, you have to come watch Formula E. And instantly I recognised Nick DeVries, and I was like, I fucking love Nick DeVries. I fucking love Nick DeVries. I have such a soft, like, I've had a soft spot for him since, like, feeder series. And I was like, that's my man. And I was like, oh, who's his teammate? And it was none other than fucking Stoffel Van Dorn. And I was like, my McLaren boy. Like, similar to KTA, like, Jensen Button was my first love in Formula One and will always be my forever. Like, he's always my top. And, like, when him and Lewis were then in McLaren together, and I love Lewis Hamilton, it was just such a great pairing, and I fucking loved the pairing so much that then McLaren kind of became my team. So, you know, I like fell in love with Stoffel through that, and then obviously I saw them, you know, they were both teammates, and I was like, the two men I love most in motorsport are just like in a team together. Like, that's my team. That is my team. I claim it. And now they're gone. So
Yeah.
everyone
So
knows
sad.
that everything ends in heartbreak.
Yeah.
Everything in motorsport, anyway.
Everything in motorsport ends in heartbreak.
Very
Never
true.
get attached. Never get attached.
Yeah, and like with Formula E, I watched the last race of 2020 with the last one of Berlin, and then I was like, okay, no, I actually really like it. So rewatched basically all of the races before the season started, and we watched the beginning of season 7, all of us together in Diriyah. And I kind of already had a couple of favorites, like, because I'd watched the past races. I also knew a bit from like GP2 era. So I was like really like interested in watching like what Alex Lynn was doing, what Mitch Evans was doing. And then in Diriyah, they crashed together really badly. And yeah, I was freaking out, to be honest. You were all like, no, they'll be fine. It's like, no. But like the race even then was like amazing. You know, Edo Mortara's like double overtake through the middle was like perfect. So that kind of solidified that.
That's who sat behind us at Formula E this year, wasn't it?
Who?
No. Who sat behind us at Formula E? Norman Nato. And, Tom Blomqvist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom and Norman.
I remember the driver sat behind us.
Which we realised as they were coming down the stairs, and we were like,
Hang on a second.
Coming down the stairs.
Is that Norman Nato?
Alice goes, hang on a second. And they both turn around as if to say, shh, shut up, don't say anything.
Don't blow our cover.
Yeah. Even though they had like VIP lanyards on, they had headphones that said like VIP.
Yeah.
It was so obvious, but yeah, it
I
was
was
funny.
like, that's a race car driver. I know a race car driver when I see a race car driver.
Yeah. And then I managed to name them, luckily, so.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't pin a name. I'm terrible at pinning a name to a face.
And I'm
Literally. Show me
pretty-
Max
I'm pretty
Verstappen
good
and
at
I
it.
will tell you it's Sergio Perez.
Wow.
That was a joke, by the way. For anyone ever wondering, that's not bad. So we want to use this podcast to discuss a lot of different things, from what's happened during the race weekend to like everything racing, basically. But if there's race weekends on, we want to talk about the race weekend that's occurred and the race weekend that's forthcoming, because obviously there's a period of time where there isn't really any racing across the Christmas period, up until the end of January when Formula E starts again. So, you know, while there's racing on, we want to talk racing. And there were multiple racing series on this weekend. One of the ones being the wonderful track of Zandvoort in the Netherlands, which our lovely Celeste was actually there. She is a track marshal. She's a little flag marshal, you know, waving a yellow
Yes.
flag for about 2 hours straight.
A lot of yellow
In
flags.
Formula 2, yeah.
flags. Yeah. It was a lot.
So I don't know whether for you the atmosphere felt different because you were there compared to what we could see it, but the atmosphere at the Dutch Grand Prix always looks insane. Like,
Yeah.
probably second to any Italian Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it translates as well on TV as it is in real life. Because I was at the arena grandstand where there was a lot of people, and I watched it back on TV because I wanted to know if the sound was as loud as I could hear it there, and it really doesn't translate as good. Like, I couldn't even hear the cars at one point because the crowd was just screaming so loud. And obviously I have my earplugs in because the cars are really loud if you stand so close to them. So normally when Max came around, I put my earplugs out just because I wanted to feel the atmosphere and feel the people, but I just couldn't hear the cars anymore. It was so loud. I can't describe it. I've never ever been through anything like that. It was insane. So yeah, I would say the atmosphere on TV, if that's already big and if that's already feeling great, then it's even better in real life. It was insane.
I was gonna say on TV, it's a lot of orange. Like anytime it pans
Yeah.
over, it's orange. It's just straight up orange. It's like, are there actually any other fans in here apart from Max Verstappen fans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mum's very much like a casual fan. Like she watches it because I have it on the TV, and without fail, every like this year and last year, she sat there and she's gone, "Oh my god, there's so many McLaren fans," and I'm like, "No, mum." I was like, "No, mum, not quite." I was like, and my dad's like, "No, Helen, stop, don't embarrass yourself."
Is your mum Lando Norris?
Yeah,
Literally.
honestly, are they for me?
Still keeping on the thing of atmosphere, there's obviously a lot of controversy around the atmosphere that the Dutch Grand Prix brings, because you watch any of the Italian Grand Prix and you see the atmosphere that the Tifosi can create without being dangerous in the process.
Yeah.
Whereas with the I know it is only a very, very small portion of the drivers, the people attending that are the problem. Because there are a lot of fans who just go to watch, they enjoy, but obviously the biggest thing that is always brought up around Zandvoort is obviously the flares.
Yeah, it's a big problem, especially the first few days, like the Friday and the Saturday. I think it was the biggest problem. We had a lot of flares, and it wasn't just with a pole position or Max doing good. It was every single session with FP1, with FP2. We had the flares everywhere. At that point, it was just in the stands, which is fine. I get that it creates this cool atmosphere, and you know, it's cool. It looks cool on TV. It looks cool in real life. So I get why people are doing it. But then when we came to the flares ending up on the track, that obviously crossed a line. I don't know why people would do that. I really don't know. And to be fair, at one point we were a bit scared that they were gonna throw a lot of flares on the track if Max crossed the line at quali, because obviously he was the first to go out. He set the time, which got him pole. And to be fair, we as marshals were a bit scared that people would just go nuts and throw a lot of flares on the track just to bring out a red flag and end the quali there. Luckily that didn't happen to that extent, but yeah, it is a big problem that people throw the flares on the track. A lot has not been broadcasted. There's been a lot of flares throwing at the direction of the track that didn't make it, but I've picked up a lot of flares around the track that people threw. So yeah, big problem.
I suppose it's not just dangerous in the sense of it being thrown on track, but even in the grandstands, like the visibility for like fans, obviously, like inhaling like the smoke. I know one of our friends said she went to the Hungarian Grand Prix and she was like coughing up like orange for like days after because she'd inhaled so much of the smoke. But it's not just that; it's like driver visibility. If they're racing and you've let off a flare, like they're going however many 100 mile an hour, like it's not safe. It's not safe in the slightest.
Yeah, and it's like
go on. Yeah, it really is a bad thing for the visibility, because at one point even we as marshals couldn't see the cars coming at us, which is obviously also dangerous, because if a car crashes or anything, we can't see it. We can't help the drivers. We can't do anything. So yeah, it's a big problem in a lot of lot of ways.
Yeah, it's crazy because obviously with like you see flares a lot like in football matches, and in the UK like it's a big no. Like they are banned, and like they will always check your bags. But it's like even the security at Formula One races is that's ridiculous. Like I went to Silverstone, and they hardly checked our bags.
I didn't even get
Luckily,
checked.
no, exactly. And we like there were no flares at Silverstone or that I could see, luckily, but you could have taken anything in. They hardly checked. You could probably have just walked around it if you wanted to. And that the amount of people there as well, it's dangerous. Like it really is dangerous.
I was gonna say because when I went to Silverstone, I didn't even have a small bag. I had a big bag. It was like this big because brought in like food. We brought in like drinks and everything like that because it's expensive in the track, and you're allowed to bring in food and drinks, permitting they're not in like glass bowls or anything, which is fine. It's understandable. But I had this massive bag over my shoulder, and I walked straight past the gear guys. They smiled and said, "Have fun." And I was like, I could have anything in this bag, and you've just let me walk straight through.
Do you remember at Formula E? This is another thing. Remember at Formula E, we had bags with us, and we walked through. And I went, "Do you want to check my bag?" He went, "No." And
It
I was
seems
like,
to be a very common thing with sort of like.
and I was like,
Yeah, I know
"Sorry?"
Formula E was much more security policed than Formula One, but I think that's because we accidentally went through the wrong entrance.
Yeah.
Because we were meant to keep going down and go through the like.
But they pointed us to
thingy.
go that way.
I know, and they were like, "Come through," and we went through the. Was it the VIP
It was like the
entrance?
hospitality.
Yeah, the
I think,
hospitality
VIP.
entrance.
Oh, yeah.
So they just kind of like didn't bat an eyelid, let us walk through the metal detectors, and was like, "All right, have a good time." And we were like, "Okay." But I know everyone else kind of like all the other people that we went with. They all got their bag searched, they got checked,
Yeah,
they
I
got
got my bag
everything.
checked.
Yeah, because I remember you had all of your luggage, didn't you?
Yeah, I came straight from the plane, so I had a lot of luggage with me, and they checked everything. And also, when I went to Berlin for the E-Prix, I remember they checked my entire bag. Like, I had to get everything out so they could really see what was in there.
Yeah.
So definitely better security there than at a Formula One race.
Yeah, I think
'cause
Formula One needs to up it big time.
Yeah, even MotoGP, like, it's still at the same venue, still at Silverstone. Yeah, I feel like they checked my bag more, and it was just like, I like, even then, like, I could have probably hidden something, like, just put like a whole load of stuff on top. Like, I don't know. It's they need to be careful of it, especially with the amount of people at these events. Like Silverstone was like sold out, and
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I feel like with like I know it's a thingy with the touring cars, but like at Brands Hatch, they were sort of like you had one of the entrances was obviously like the main entrance. You walk under like the big arch that sits there and says like "Welcome to Brands Hatch." Their security, they were going through your bags. They were making you empty like your coat pockets to make sure that you weren't like stuffing anything like on your body, which I was like, yeah, fine, sure, go ahead. Like they had a male attendant for like obviously men going through, and they had a female one as well, so you weren't being searched by a male security bloke, which I was like, okay, love that, that's good, because I don't really want to be like patted down by male security bloke. But then where the camping was, because we did camping one of the races, and literally we walked from the campsite in, all they did was scan our tickets. They did no bag search at that entrance. And I was just kind of like, like I understand that it's because we were camping, we had wristbands on, so it's sort of like we're only coming from over there. But it's still, it should be sort of the same thing around any of the entrances.
Yeah, because you never know.
Yeah.
No.
It's always better to be safe than sorry. And,
Absolutely.
you know, whether that's flares or whether it's something worse, you know, like if you're putting a rule out to not bring something in, you need to police it constantly because it'll keep happening. Like but the flares surprisingly didn't affect the race results. Although they chucked a flare on before Max had managed to actually get pole position.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I fucking love a home win. Like it's one of my most favorite things is watching someone win at their home race. But I would have laughed because they would have screwed over their own driver, and I think that's just karma for breaking the rules, simply.
Yeah.
But the race results.
Interesting. I didn't expect these kind of results. Obviously Zandvoort is not a very fun track. Like the track itself is fun, but the racing normally is quite boring. Not a lot of opportunity to overtake. But actually, I was pretty surprised by how exciting this race was.
Yeah.
It's
it
just
was
we had
good.
an extension of the DRS zone, didn't we?
Yeah, there was.
And I
Yeah,
think that
the
helped big
DRS.
time. But we had Max Verstappen, the home man, start on pole, finishing first. Although there was a part of the race that I think some of us agree that we weren't 100% sure if he would finish in first. George Russell managed to claim P2 after starting P6, and Charles Leclerc finished third after starting second. And obviously, Lewis Hamilton then finished fourth after starting in fourth, which is obviously one of the bigger controversies of the weekend. There were a lot of controversies this weekend regarding Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, Lewis and George, the whole situation. Just I don't really know where to start. Like Max pretty much knew he was going to claim that. I feel like if we start with George and Lewis, because they were the kind of like the big drama at the end of it. Well, I think you have to start from the beginning with Yuki. So the whole conspiracy that Yuki Tsunoda stopped on track to benefit Max because it would pull a safety car and give Max a better advantage against what was looking like a very dominant Mercedes for the first time this year, really. Like, they've showed a little bit of dominance, but setting fastest laps every lap, setting constant fastest sectors, closing down the gap, you know, fighting with the Ferraris, like there was, and the Red Bulls, I say Red Bulls, Red Bull singular. You know, it was just interesting to see the dominance back again, and then obviously the conspiracy that Yuki stopped so that they could have a safety car, so they could pit and get an advantage.
Yeah, because basically what happened was that he believed he had a loose tyre. Luckily, it seemed fine, but he, you know, was stopping on track saying like, no, I have a loose tyre. And his engineer comes on the radio of, no, you're fine. Like, the data says you're fine. Carry on. And I think at this point his belts were already undone or heavily loosened. And then they told him to go back into the pits. They checked everything, maybe, and then sent him back out and said, no, stop on track.
Because they changed his tyres, didn't they? When he went back in, they just didn't say anything. They just changed the tyres and just went. You kind of sit there and you're like, what is going on? Because if it was just a loosened tyre, surely you'd just tighten it up. You wouldn't change for a full new set of tyres.
I think there was something to do with, there was like something broken in the back.
Yeah, it seemed like so. Yeah, when he went back out on track, they said, "Oh, there's an issue with the rear. Like, I need to stop." But it was very strange. They weren't very clear over the radio. They weren't clear about it anyway.
No.
But who knows?
Yeah. And then it was said that Valtteri Bottas did the same things to benefit his best mate on the grid, Lewis Hamilton, by also stopping on the track. And the ridiculousness of the FIA. That car was stopped for 3 laps before a safety car was deployed on the main straight, on the fastest part of the track.
Yeah. I don't know why that took so long, because the FIA knows that car is not going to be removed by just pushing it backwards or pushing it forwards. Obviously, we have the pit entry that goes around the corner, so you can't just push it back into the pit lane, because that's not an option. So everyone knew that there has to get some sort of crane there to get that car out of the way, which obviously we need a safety car for that. So I don't know why it took them so long to get that safety car deployed.
Yeah, and then we saw everything.
I was just going to ask if Celeste received any information on the incident regarding the safety car from her little standing post.
No, I'm not in contact with race control. It's just my post chief that has the radio on. So I don't really know what the communication was like at that point. It could be that race control was hoping and waiting for Bottas to just drive away. But to wait for that long, I honestly don't know why.
Yeah, and then obviously we saw what happened with Carlos Sainz. He went for an overtake literally where Bottas was, and
Very interesting. Yeah.
just and we watched it back. We were trying to proper analyze it yesterday, and he slows down a bit as he sees him while he's alongside Bottas, but then speeds up again straight away just to get that overtake. And that's not fully his fault because there was no safety car out, but there were yellow flags out.
There
You
was
can
definitely
see
yellow
that.
flags.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know when there's a car there, oh, maybe I should slow down a
Yeah.
bit. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you could easily catch Ocon in a couple turns later.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, after the
Mhm.
safety car's been deployed, safety car's done, you catch Ocon easily. Like, you're in the
Mhm.
Ferrari, you're meant to be on what's apparently the best car on the grid.
Yeah.
You know, but I think Carlos Sainz had an absolute horrific stinker of a weekend. I think
Yeah.
the Dutch Grand Prix is going to be one he wants to forget, from
Yeah.
Definitely.
the safety car with the wheel gun situation,
Yeah,
the missing
what
tyre.
happened there? That is-
All I know is
it's
Carlos
typical
Sainz
Ferrari,
came into
but-
the pit, they changed the tyres, and then there was just the wrong tyre in the wrong tyre blanket.
Yeah.
And they had to find a new one, left the wheel gun out, in which Perez then drove over it twice. And then they ended up sending Carlos back out, and then didn't he get caught? Why did he get the penalty? Speeding in the pit
No,
lane.
so he had an unsafe release. With
Oh yeah, the unsafe
Alonso-
release. I knew it was in the
Alonso
pit.
during the when they went through the pit lane for because of Bottas, I think it was. They went through the pit lane and
Yeah, they had to
Yeah.
go through the pit lane.
Yeah,
and
'cause that's when George was like, "We're pitting for softs." Mercedes
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
"Okay then."
fine. Yeah, and he got the penalty for unsafe release.
I thought there was almost an incident after Bottas stopped, like obviously on the straight. I think it was the lap after Carlos did like the dodgy overtake, but someone locked up and there was almost like a 3-car collision next to Bottas
Yeah.
because they were all still sort of going. They were obviously had slowed down because it was like yellow flags and that lot, but they were still going very fast, and it was sort of there's a reason why you have a safety car. And that's why, because you almost had a collision because there's a car stopped on track.
Yeah, I think it was Ocon and 2 other cars. I'm not
Yeah.
sure who.
Bloody
But
Ocon.
yeah, it was really close.
SD.
Bestie.
Bestie, let's not.
Bestie.
Yeah. So Carlos Sainz, after his stink of a weekend, went from 3rd to 8th.
Yeah,
And-
with that penalty, it dropped back a lot.
It's now lost his 3rd place position. 3rd place? No, 4th place position in the constructors to none other
Yeah.
than George Russell, who, whether you think George did what he did for his own personal game or what he thought was best for the team, is obviously a discussion that is being had wildly, especially between like Lewis Hamilton fans and George Russell fans, and how Lewis Hamilton fans feel like George Russell snubbed him completely. And I am not biased to either side because they are both 2 of my most favourite drivers on the grid. I've loved Lewis for a long time. I've loved George for a long time. And I'm a massive fan of both of them. I think the fault sits back at Mercedes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
not the drivers.
Yeah,
At
no,
the end of the
definitely.
day, the strategist is the one that tells you what to do. If you
Yeah.
have both drivers thinking that their strategies are the best strategy, you need to be the one to figure out what's the best strategy to go for. I personally think they both should have pitted for softs the first time round. It was stupid to go into the mediums, especially when they knew Max was going onto the softs and he had a much faster car.
Yeah.
And if they had the softs, they might have been able to defend better. Obviously, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, if George had sat between Lewis and Max, Max was going to catch both of them in another. It would have taken one more lap and he would have caught them easily if they
Yeah.
both
Yeah,
stayed on the
definitely.
mediums. So it's just a
And
lot of drama.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that it was never going to be like the Mercedes car could be able to do that. What they were doing, trying to win that race, trying to get, say, a 1-2, it would have to be like by strategy, because
Definitely.
the Merc just doesn't have that pace. Like,
And-
it is not fast enough.
And nobody
And
tops
Red Bull
Hannah.
is.
No one tops Hannah in the
No.
strategy game.
No, she was
Nobody.
Queen.
My
unreal.
queen.
The
Queen.
most incredible woman.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the Formula 2?
Yes.
Because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Naomi has a lot of comments about the Formula 2 that she was expressing
That is
quite angrily
fine.
yesterday.
I
The
was.
first thing on our little points list, we had a little points list. It says safety car. safety car restart.
That was chaotic. Jesus Christ.
The anger.
Naomi's a
Yeah.
big Jack Doohan fan. It was Jack Doohan,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Doohan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jack
It
Doohan.
was tough.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I don't want to fully put the blame on Liam Lawson, but I kind of want to put the blame on Liam Lawson. And I like Liam as well, but we've seen this happen before. This was almost a carbon copy. Luckily, not as bad of the crash that happened in Mugello in 2020.
Yes.
That was exactly that. It's speeding up, slowing down, and 99% of the time you never gain anything from doing a safety car restart like that. It's not good. You are just putting the other drivers in danger. You
Yeah.
saw that, and it's never at the front. You don't see the chaos at the front. It's at the back where they're not seeing as much what's going on. Obviously, you saw Richard Vishaw hit
Richard
Jack
with a knee.
Doohan. Richard with a knee. And it's his home race as well, and he got on the podium after, and he was like, I don't feel like I deserve this. Like, I just punted off a guy that was in like the net lead, and he did feel bad, bless him. But it's not good enough. And obviously the same happened with Clem. He ended up being part of that chaos, and it's not good. And luckily they are in Formula 2 to learn these kind of things. Like, it is still the feeder series. They are still young, and that is to remember. But hopefully a lesson is learnt there, because it's not good.
We saw a lot of drama in Formula 2 regarding the warrant for safety cars. Because was it prior to this Logan Sargent went into the wall? Or was it a different race? The other race?
Prior. Yeah, because Logan caused the red flag, which the safety car restart was after the red flag.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Logan Sargent, very not nice crash. That was
No.
English.
Um,
Very
But
not nice crash.
Yeah, that was scary. I mean, we still don't fully. I know we do know, because at first I thought it was brake failure, which terrified me.
yeah,
But
that was what I saw as well.
Yeah, he hit the back of Bushong, I think it was.
I think it was rough, yeah.
Yeah, and then just broke his suspension and flew straight.
He couldn't
into
do
the-
anything. He tried to steer, but it was
Yeah.
gone.
And I think the worst part was like the broadcast was that
Mhm.
you didn't see it, you just heard someone flying through the gravel and hitting the barrier, and that was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was the horrible screech.
Yeah, I remember, like, it was the commentators who sat there going, I've just heard gravel and a screech, but I don't know who it is. And you sit there and you're like, well, that's never good, because they haven't switched straight back to a camera to show it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just, it's not very sort of like any
It's
of the
scary.
podcasts not
It
show
is-
a
it's
crash,
scary.
because we all know after Bahrain 2020 that they love to repeat showing crashes. So
Yeah.
Mm.
But
to not actually
luckily-
show that initially, you do sit there and you're like, what's happened?
Luckily he was okay
Yeah.
though. But it was very interesting, because he locked up during, like, into the first corner, which already put him back into that point where he was behind Boschong, which is a shame for him, because he had like a really good starting place. But yeah, those things happen. It's not something that could have been avoided probably, but
No, I don't think so.
no. But it took a long while for the red flag to come out, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think they didn't see the damage on the Tech Pro at first. I think they just thought we can pull this car out and we'll all be fine. But then obviously his whole nose like got to
Yeah.
the Tech Pro, and all the foam and stuff, everything was coming out, so they had a lot of repair work to be done.
Mm.
If we keep on the theme with crashes, there was another very notable crash, which I'd say was a pretty hot crash.
Fireman Marino.
Fireman, yeah.
Love
Did he
that.
actually put his own fire out?
Yeah.
He did, yeah.
Why did I not
He
see
did
this?
put his fire.
Yeah, so his tire came off. It wasn't
Yeah,
fitted
it was
right, was
rolling down
Yeah.
the track.
Before he even hit anything, it just rolled
So
off.
yeah, so basically what happened, I watched this back. in the pit lane there was smoke coming off that side of the car. And so either it like had melted through somehow, or it didn't fit right due to the heat on the like car and everything. But he went straight off basically, and then that side, the brakes lit up basically and was on fire, and the fire marshal couldn't get to it, so Marino did it.
Yeah, he did it himself.
He was handed the fire extinguisher and just about managed to do it himself. That was pretty good.
And I think the best way to end off Zandvoort for Formula 2 is Felipe Drugovich qualified on pole and finished the feature race in first, extending his lead in the championship against Théo Pourchaire, who had a pretty not so
Difficult
memorable weekend.
I feel so bad for him.
He qualified in 16th and finished 20th in the sprint race after starting 16th in the sprint, and finished 10th in the feature race, which is 1 point for the whole weekend.
Yeah, and he really needed those points. I mean, he's on a charge in the championship. He has a big lead, and for Theo to just have this weekend, it's not good.
Especially when his main rival took points in both races across the weekend.
Yeah.
No, sprint, you don't get points for 10th, do you?
No.
Okay, only got points in the feature race. I was like, hang on, I've forgotten the point system.
No, Teo's had such bad luck. Like, it's ridiculous the amount of like bad luck that kid's having. It's sad because he does have clear talent, and it's the point where this could cost him like a Formula 1 seat, and it's annoying because, you know, it's one of those things of, we've seen this story before. We've seen the annoying thing of this kid has so much talent, yet there's just like no way that he could get there. I know he's looking at other options for like endurance. He's been testing some Formula E as well, but it's frustrating to see that. But Felipe Drugovich is unbelievable. Like he finished the feature race and said, "Nah, I wasn't really pushing." And you're just like, what?
He just knows.
Yeah.
Felipe Drugovich wasn't our only race winner that weekend. It was also Marcus Armstrong, who took his third win of the season, did we say yesterday? Third win of the season, after taking that position from Clemens Novalak, who was caught sleeping on the first lap. So, love you, Clem, but...
Wake up.
Wake up, Clem. Clement, wake up.
No, I was waiting for you to do that. Oh god.
The only thing we have written down for Formula 3 is the only Juan Manuel Correa, who managed to get on the podium again. And
so happy for him.
Yeah,
it's just,
he truly deserves that.
Amazing.
It was just incredible, and I think just the whole of the F3 weekend should just focus on the fact that he is on the podium.
Yeah, it was like highlight of the Formula 3 season, to be honest. Like, we knew it was coming for a while. Obviously, he had a couple of like mechanicals and taken out by some people, but it's so deserved. He's raced so well this year. He did well last year, but this year he's stepped up another level.
It's one of those things that even if you don't get emotional, you got emotional at that podium.
Oh yeah,
you got him out of the car, pointing to his helmet, and just it definitely sort of brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah, it plays on the heartstrings. Like it really
brought a tear to my eye. I was genuinely sobbing.
Oh yeah.
I just remember people were saying that he went back into motorsport too soon, and that he should have taken a greater step back. But he's proven to himself and to everybody that he did what was best for him and what was right for him, and it's now starting to, he's starting to fully settle in again and really, truly connect back with what he loves, and he's not only doing it for him, he's doing it for Antoine.
Yeah, and he's like, he was the nicest guy ever. Like, you can tell he cares about what he's doing, and you can tell he is doing it for Antoine. Like, he's saying, like, we all, his caption for his Instagram post or whatever it was says, like, we all know who this one was for. And it means a lot, and you see Anton's mother replying to it on Twitter, and you just, yeah, it's still like crazy to think about, but it means so much.
Yeah. The only other thing we have to talk about with F3 is what is to come in the following. How many races?
One weekend.
One weekend.
One
2 races,
weekend.
basically.
There is what? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 competitors
Yeah.
It's a tight
6
battle.
for this. You got
Yeah.
Behrman, you got Hajar, you got Stanek, you got Martins, you got Maloney, and you've got Leclerc. Who do you think's gonna get it?
I don't
That's-
know.
I
So
think it's difficult because
Yeah.
there's almost all of these drivers. They're obviously very young, and you always see with Formula 3, it's make or break. If they make a move, it's either absolutely insane or they just take out basically the whole field.
mm,
And obviously in Monza, it's a short track. There's a lot of cars in Formula 3. I think it's gonna be chaos because they're all pushing. They all want it.
Monza
But
Formula
they're
3
still
always
rookies.
performs.
Yeah, it's always chaos. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see who can keep his head cool, keep his head down, and just
Yeah.
be consistent, I think, this weekend and get the points instead
Yeah.
of making weird actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the funny thing was with because Martins was fighting for it last year really, until Zandvoort, where he just absolutely ruined that whole thing, by crashing into Tin 3, I think it was, and I think he has I think he could do it because I think last year helped with his experience of that. Obviously, he fought for Formula Renault as well with Colette. But I think someone who's is kind of under the radar is Stanek. Like he does everything. Like he keeps his head down. He doesn't make too much fuss. He does it
Yeah.
under the radar. Obviously if Hajar did it, that would be amazing. Just due to his age, like he's so young.
How old is he?
Same with Behrman. I think Hajar's 16. Is he? Wait.
Yeah, it's crazy how young they are.
No, mate, I thought you had a
and he-
notebook full of these things.
I do. Leave me alone. But even with Oliver Bierman, they're all so young. It's crazy. Okay, sorry. Hajar is 17. I was close.
You were close. Did he start the season as 16?
No.
You're close enough.
I'm still.
But rounding out the formulas, this weekend upcoming is the Monza Grand Prix, the Italian Grand Prix.
The best
Lo
one.
and behold, if you thought Zandvoort had the atmosphere, you have not been to fucking Monza, okay?
I agree.
And everything in my body is crossed for Ferrari to have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one good weekend. Please let it be Monza. Monza has brought us, though, the past 3 races have been some of the best races in Formula 1. In the new era.
Yeah.
With Charles Leclerc winning in 2019, you had who's that man? Who was that
I
one
don't
that
know.
won in?
Is it?
Who won in
Is there a
2020?
man? I don't know who won that.
Was he?
Well, the one 2 years ago
He's
today.
French. I think he's French, isn't he?
Is he French?
My
Was
mic
he
cut
French?
out. I could see it cut out. Pierre Gasly winning in 2020,
2 years ago today.
and
The brilliance.
you're gonna make her cry in a fucking
I'm gonna
AlphaTauri
cry.
jumper. And
can put my
last
hat on if you
year
want.
we had the McLaren duo on the podium. Daniel Ricciardo, the most recent race win for McLaren, and he'll
Yes.
continue to hold that
Yes.
title for at least a good couple of years. So, I hope Zach Brown
Zach Brown.
appreciates his tattoo. But yeah, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a 4th. And it's George Russell.
Oh, don't. I would
To be
cry.
fair, though, okay, so to anyone that's not a Lewis fan, this is going to sound like, well, you're going to waste, the Monza charm on a Lewis win. I need a Lewis win, okay?
I think we can
And
get
it's
it.
because No, it's because, right, of course I want to see Lewis win, right? But something so special about it being at Monza. First hand, he loves the Tifosi, for a start. Okay? Loves the Tifosi. Second of all, I cannot have him, not win this season. Because it just breaks.
It's not right.
It breaks. He's won every single season, except this one.
Yeah.
And I just think it'd be so special that he gets that win in Monza. But if I had to choose, it'd be George Russell. And then Lewis wins the following weekend.
Well, Monza is the place for redemption. Like, I reckon we could genuinely have, like, a Merc win.
Shall we manifest? Manifest circle, guys. Manifest.
I can't join this.
Mercedes
I
1,
need
Mercedes
my team.
1, 2.
I need to back my team here.
But
I
also,
can't.
the funny thing is Sam Bird. So, if you don't know Sam Bird, he's been in Formula E since the start. He's a legend, all-round legend. And because he broke his hand in London, he broke his record of competing in every single Formula E race since the start, but also winning a race every season. This year's been the only season that he hasn't won a race.
He should have pulled a Calamai lot. That man took his cast off to try on a suit.
Yeah. But yeah. So if he stops, we could have a mirroring of Sam and Lewis, which would be really sad. I'd hate that so much.
I think I'd cry. I'd be just too emotional. So let's just put on here Ferrari celebration. And I know it's less. I don't even need to question who put on this Ferrari celebration. I just know it might be the woman with the red radiator, the Ferrari flag on the back of the chair, the Ferrari bag, the Ferrari hats, the Ferrari car, the other Ferrari car, or maybe the Ferrari shirt she's wearing right now.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of Ferrari. Yeah, no, Ferrari is celebrating 75 years, which is obviously a big celebration. They posted, I think it was yesterday, something about new liveries. It looked to be white, but then there's also
Did you see the rumours that it's yellow?
Yellow and brown, and it's got like a or
they're probably
let it be white.
Very old school.
Let it be white.
Let it be white.
Let it be white, please. Because
God.
think of the iconic liveries, okay?
Yeah.
The McLaren Monaco. Monaco,
beautiful.
right?
Yeah.
White. She's white and gorgeous. The Red Bull. What was meant to be Japan? What?
The Monaco livery wasn't white.
Well, it's got a lot of
It was
white
like
in
a
it.
very plain.
It was
pale blue, white.
Sorry,
Yeah.
pale blue. Okay, it was light. It was very light. Okay, fine, light blue. Okay,
thank you.
the Red Bull, that Red Bull livery that was meant for
was
Japan,
stunning.
white. Okay, Ferrari, don't fuck it up. Don't
You're
fuck it up.
You're missing a white livery. Though.
Okay, well, I'm going through the threes.
There's not a white livery.
Go on, hit me with
Wasn't
it.
it like Germany 2019 or something? Do we want to recap that race or
No,
just let
didn't
it
exist.
slide?
That didn't
it
exist.
happen. If you can see Alice her face right now, she could literally kill me.
But also special liveries don't always bring luck, especially for Ferrari at Monza.
Yeah, no. It's,
After 2020, that was a disaster.
I take back all I said about wanting to see Ferrari on the podium this weekend.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Nope. You asked for it now. You asked for it.
I mean, at the rate Ferrari is going right now, they'll probably they probably mess up the entire weekend. It's just Ferrari needs a good weekend, both for the team. I think they really need something to look forward to. With this celebration, there's only more pressure on them, which can be good. I know they can perform under pressure, but lately it's just stupid mistakes. It's mistakes that a team like Ferrari, a team that has been so long in Formula 1, a team that is so big, they shouldn't be making these mistakes. So I really hope they can get back in the rhythm and take that energy of the Tifosi and just get a good weekend for them. See what happens in Monza.
What happens in fucking Monza?
Let's see what
Okay.
happens.
So I feel like the best way to segue into this is obviously, I was like, what should we move on to next? And I think the best way to move on from Formula 1 is IndyCar. Because there is a lot of fucking drama around this. Okay, if you're unaware, then you need to stay on the internet more. Colton Herta. I did pronounce that right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's not a hard one. Come on, Alice.
And the super license points situation.
Very
Everyone's going to have
interesting.
differing opinions on this. However,
Mhm.
I don't think he should be allowed to race without the super license points. He should not be given a super license without the super license points. That defeats
I
the
agree
point
with you.
of it. And there are so many drivers that would have loved the opportunity to race in F1 but have only been 1 or 2 points off super license points, and they haven't been able to. The problem is not the you know, super license in general. The problem is IndyCar's point system. They should give more super license points out because it is a much higher category.
IndyCar's, the competitiveness of IndyCar is so high. Like I think Colton like deserves it. Like he is so talented, and a lot of people who like say just watch Formula One don't understand that. And there was a thread going on Twitter last night, and Callum replied to it because one of the journalists said like, oh, I don't think like he should be given it. Like there's no point, you know, as you said about the super light. And Callum said like, but like as being experienced of like racing against Tim and racing in Formula 2, he was like, I reckon he should be given it because he is talented. And I'm interested to see the moves from IndyCar to Formula 1. I'm interested to see how that works. But also like I'm a big IndyCar fan. I'm a Colton Herta fan as well. But also like I personally like I actually wouldn't want to see him in Formula 1. Because like he's doing so well in IndyCar. He's competitive. And you're not necessarily going to get that when you go to Formula 1. We know, you know, there is, well, top 3, top 2 teams in Formula 1. So, and it's just, I don't know. It's interesting, different dynamics of each racing, but I don't know. I'm open for anything because if I don't get it, like if he doesn't get the super license, I think that's like understandable. But also, in talent terms, that would be like really interesting considering I think he does have the talent for it.
Yeah, he's talented enough for it. It's the super license points system that's horrific.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't understand why a driver would leave a well secured spot where they are challenging for championships to go to a sport that has, you know, no place for you to grow, if that makes sense. Like Formula One, don't get me wrong, it's great. It's named the prestigious event of motorsport. And I understand why that is like the pinnacle. People believe that that's what they want to achieve. But unless right now this year you are in that Red Bull car, you've not got a fighting chance at winning.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
If
definitely.
you weren't in that bloody Mercedes in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021,
A
not
lot of
21,
years, yeah.
not 21. You know, you weren't winning, okay? Like, that's why, like, it's, you know, ping it back to, like, F1 and stuff. People always say Nick de Vries deserves a Formula 1 seat. The only seat Nick de Vries can pretty much get is a Williams seat. Why would he go from winning the World Championship in a sport that pays well and has good racing and allows him to travel the world and allows him to love motorsport to the full contention that he does, to a team where he might not even get a point?
Yeah.
And he also does WEC at the same time, and he's competing in that. There's a chance that he could get a hypercar seat for 2023. And it's like, why would you throw that all away?
Yeah, and I also don't see Formula One changing anytime soon in that. I think recent years have proven that the small teams just are not gonna get there.
They can't
Unless
survive.
we have- No, they just can't survive. They don't have the people, they don't have the money. Obviously, the budget cap came in, but I still feel like that isn't doing enough to
Well,
bring
it's
the smaller teams forward.
Williams, which is the smaller team, is the one that's facing the fines for breaking the budget.
Yeah.
And then, Alex Albon is doing incredibly. Like,
It
he
really
is doing really, really well for what the car is. But their other driver, Gotifi, is literally on 0 points. So
Yeah.
it's proven that, the regulation changes and applying the price cap isn't doing what it was meant to be doing.
But doing a price cap was never going to work because the Mercedes and the Red Bull and like the Ferrari are so much
Still
better
up there.
developed anyway.
Yeah.
So giving them the same budget as a team that's still down there just means that instead of it going like that, it's just going to move. It's just going to
Yeah.
go
Yeah, and even then, like,
really.
You're just capping the smaller teams from growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anything, it should sort of be like if you win the championship, okay, you've got to build next year's car. Say like however many thousand.
Half the
Like,
budget.
Yeah, half the budget. You've only got half the budget, so then next year, actually, someone else has got the content. Like,
yeah, but even then, like with the price cap, Mick, Red Bull, probably Ferrari, McLaren, like they're all hitting that price cap. Like they're like, yeah, we're there. We can't go above this, fine. And then you have like your teams like Haas, and they're like, we can't even make it to that budget cap. Like we don't have the money. And even a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2020, I was like, I'll be surprised if there is a Haas on the grid in like 5 years, just financially. Like it's ridiculous.
It'll be interesting to see Audi though.
Yes,
Yes, very interesting.
Yeah.
and obviously rumors of Porsche,
They're meant to be
Andretti trying to get in.
Porsche meant to be joining Red Bull, aren't they?
Yeah, well, rumored. Yeah, I can side with that. I can side with a thumbs down. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the new manufacturers because Audi may end up going with Sauber, because Sauber and
You just
Alfa
made them a
Romeo
cute ship
are
name.
sponsoring- Oh, they're splitting Alfa Romeo and Sauber.
Yes.
But it'll all be interesting.
At least Herr
If it-
Porsche will have a seat when Audi come in. He's a Sauber Junior driver.
That doesn't mean he's gonna get a seat.
It was sarcasm, Naomi.
I know. We all know with the way that the feeder and academies work, Alpine have shown it the best. Like they're just can't even get involved with Alpine and all their.
I just pretend drivers junior programs don't actually exist anymore.
I feel like it doesn't. Like
Why
they don't
funnel
care.
that
Especially
much
this
money
season.
into junior drivers and paying them to have a seat to just go, I actually don't want you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Ferrari that kind of like make me like, oh, like, because obviously Massimo left the academy, and after that it kind of just like went really downhill with the Ferrari academy.
I can even tell you
And-
who's in the Ferrari Academy. I know Arthur Leclerc is
Yeah, Oliver Bierman,
Dino,
you know.
the
Yeah,
Brugge,
Beganovic.
Beganovic, there we go.
Yeah.
I used to be able to
Sebastian
tell you them
Montoya
all
still
from
in
the
it?
back of my hand.
No, Seb
Did he,
Montoya is Red Bull. Seb Montoya is Red Bull.
I can tell you the
actually-
Red Bull juniors.
Oh, he was Prema, wasn't he?
Yeah.
At some point. Yeah, no, that's fine. It was the Prema videos that I was remembering, not the...
Oh no, the whole
Yeah.
whole Prema and bloody Ferrari Driver Academy, conspiracy, they're the same thing.
It's all one.
I'm telling you, they're the same
it's
thing.
all one.
All the same.
They're
thing.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Especially like up until like this year, I feel like, because this year they're really Red Bull like dominant.
Very Red Bull.
For
a red
but,
Italian team, I'm concerned.
Yeah. But there was a point where they had like Mick, they had Gianluca Petkov, they had Robert Schwartzman, Dino. I'm trying my best to name them.
Yeah.
There was another
Callum
Carlos.
I mean,
Pilot.
Callum, obviously,
Callum.
but that wasn't the year I was talking about. That wasn't the year.
I was gonna say we were just talking about IndyCar, and you're like listing up all these Ferrari drivers. And I'm like, there is one in IndyCar, Naomi. Come on.
Yeah, but still.
So, if we go from 4 wheels to 2,
Yeah.
because there definitely won't be much to talk about this because 3 of us here are pretty horrific when it comes to 2 wheels.
During the introduction, just sorry, it made me laugh. You going, me and Celeste held hands and jumped in, and I'm just a little one that tagged along.
Yeah.
I'm the little kid I'm the little
And I
sister.
was
Mum
the
said I
elder.
couldn't say.
No, it's like, you need to know anything? I'll give you a whole PowerPoint presentation, babes.
Honestly, I have a PowerPoint.
Do you want to give your information, Katie, about Mr. Marc Marquez?
Oh, right, Mr. Marc Marquez. He's my rider. Like, he's the one that I support. I know there'd probably be a lot of people like, ugh, Glory Hunter, but the man's good looking. What can I say?
Christian Horner
yeah.
enters the room.
Christian Horner's like, I told you. I told you. Obviously, it's taken time out because he likes to hit the deck a lot of the time and hurt himself quite a bit. So it's taken some time out. He had an operation. Yeah, had his surgery. But there was an update this morning and a video on the Repsol Honda Twitter account that he's back on a bike and testing at Misano. So fingers crossed that he gets medically cleared for this weekend. This weekend?
I have a question.
No, next weekend.
Aragon.
As someone who doesn't really watch MotoGP, and I haven't been into it anyway, I hear a lot about Marc Marquez. Like, it's everywhere. He seems to be this big guy, you know, winning championships and stuff like that. But now he's also injured a lot. I haven't seen him do really anything. How is that? Is he really that good, or is it?
Doesn't he have like 8 world championships?
Yeah. So he's got 8 world championships. If you really want to see the biggest like point of his dominance, 2019, that championship. Is he? I think it's really hard for me to explain like Marc being as he is. He's the youngest MotoGP like Premier class champion. He went into the championship so young.
Yeah.
But he's just been on fire ever since, and it's sad that this like injury has happened. Obviously, it happened in Jerez 2020, and ever since that point, it's been, you know, all of that's been super like dysfunctional. He broke his arm basically like here and this arm, and up here, and I think the moment like we saw like it starting to come back was last year, Sachsenring. That was his first win since the injury, and Kota after that, because his nickname is King of the Ring, and also Captain America, because he's just like, he's won Sachsenring 11 years in a row.
That's insane.
And
crazy.
He's just like actually unbelievable. Like he's so like in like everyone like, this guy's an alien. Like he is so good. He's an alien. Obviously he fought a couple of years with Rossi. He fought a couple of years with Lorenzo, Danny Pedrosa, Fabio more recently. But he's unbelievable. And some people will say like he's over the limit in what he does. I think it's like 2015. That's the main one where a lot of people are like, that's not right. And it was a bit maybe dodgy, some people would say. But you cannot deny this man's talent. It's just unbelievable.
I really hope we can see him back soon.
Oh, me too.
Back on that level.
Yeah, it's necessary, because I think also like in MotoGP, so a lot of the talking point in MotoGP lately has been fans, because we are getting such low reception with MotoGP at the moment. It's so bad. After Vale left, Valentino Rossi, we expected it to be low, but not this low. And like in like Silverstone, there was hardly, there was people there, but there was no grandstand sold out. And like even in like so I was sat in the Marc Marquez fan stand and the Alex one because it's part of one, and it's like even then there's like not a lot of people. Like we didn't expect it to be filled with Marc fans, genuinely just on the basis that he wasn't racing.
Yeah.
But like there weren't really Marc fans. Like there were Valentino Rossi fans sat in the Marc Marquez grandstand, and we were like, that's interesting, bold.
Yeah.
But it's been so low, and I think I can't remember what weekend it was, but it was like there were more people watching BSB than people watching MotoGP in the UK, and that's a big amount. Like BSB is British Superbikes, if you don't know. It's great racing, absolutely brilliant, but MotoGP is supposed to be the pinnacle, and they're not getting any reception. They did a fan survey, which the results have come out like came out this weekend. The amount of females watching MotoGP has raised massively, which is great. It's great to see more women watching it, and it's mostly like young women. So it's like 16 to 21 ages have started watching it. What?
I've essentially just been called old.
Yeah.
I just saw her face drop in the corner. I'm sorry.
Oldie. And what was I gonna say? But recently, actually, that was really interesting because the fans that the riders they were most fans of were Fabio Quartararo and Marc Marquez, which is just showing like the amount social media can do as well. Because Fabio's young, he's the younger, like, well, he's not the youngest there, but he's one of the young riders.
So
Obviously, world
Fabio's
champion
young,
last
but
year.
I'm not young.
Yes.
Okay.
Mark is maybe moving along a little. Hate to admit it, but yeah. But then this morning, they announced a new deal with Saudi Arabia, backing loads of things, and a lot of journalists have even said, "Yeah, we're not going because we cannot guarantee our safety."
Yeah.
If they do a Saudi Grand Prix. And after talking about how it's great that women are getting into the sport, then a couple of days later, saying that was, interesting PR.
It's not helping the sport, I think.
No, not at all. And it's everything MotoGP is behind a paywall, like everything. And you can't even look at live timing. You can't, like, luckily you can look at results. You can't watch like past races. You can't watch press conferences. It's all behind a paywall. In the UK, you can watch it via BT, but like you even have to pay for that, and that's not how you give your race series like exposure. And they are very much relying on the oldies. Not you, don't worry. To keep it
I'm just
going.
gonna go. Actually, I think.
To keep it going, because the young people, like students, I'm becoming a full-time uni student this year. I know I wouldn't be able to afford all of that, so they're just relying on like older people to keep it going, really.
Thanks. I also can't afford it.
Run over.
There is a crisis.
And I can just say the first session of the practice, the testing this morning has just finished. Alessa Spargo on top, Maverick Vinales second, Fabio Quartararo P3. Paul Espargaro is actually up in P4, which is surprising considering how that Honda has been going. Just looking at the other results. Marc Marquez is second top Honda. He's in 17th. Actually doing really well, which I'm very happy about. Alex Marquez and Taka keeping together in 19th. The test riders are in as well. You got Danny Pedrosa on track. Dominica De Gea is in for Joan Mir, who's injured. And Dovi, even though he did retire this weekend, is on track testing.
That's interesting.
I was going to say, I'm looking over here and you wrote Dovi's last race. Like, what do you mean he's on the track?
He did go on track testing, but he is last, unfortunately.
How do you retire and then come back for a practice session?
Well, a lot of the retired riders
Fernando
do
Alonso.
the testing. They do the testing for the teams. So like you got your Danny Pedrosa, Cal Crutchlow, Dobby now. But yeah.
The final lap.
Oh, the heart failure. The heart failure from that. Yeah,
The
I
stress.
really, really loved that. That was amazing. I think the thing that made that like even better was their home races. It's in Misano. Pecco, who's Francesco Bagnaia, if you don't know, knows that track like the back of his hand. You know, the VR46 Academy practices there all the time. They know that like off by heart. Anea, just being Italian, knows it. And he recently got announced as he became the winner to get that Ducati factory seat between him and Jorge Martin. He got the seat. So having the two like 2023 teammates fighting like that was amazing, and it was like 3 thousandths across the line, I think it was.
They basically crossed it at the
between the
exact same
win.
time almost.
Yeah, practically. I think that's one of my favorite things about MotoGP is that they actually like get on with each other so well, and they just like shake their hands across the line, saying like, "Yeah, that was fun." But yeah, really good. Pecco's 4th win in a row. He's catching up to Fabio for definite. Yeah, I know, heartbreaking.
I'm happy about that.
Back off.
But it's Ducati. Like Ducati's speed is unbelievable. Like this year, there's like at one point we had 6 Ducatis in the top 10, and it's like, okay, like their speed is unbelievable, and Fabio just needs to hope and pray that he can keep on top. And then with Moto2, I mean, every like Moto2 and Moto3 is always chaos, no matter what. They always show up. But Moto2 this weekend, I found it quite sad. So the final result was Alonso Lopez P1, P2 Aaron Canet, and P3 Augusto Fernandez. But there was Celestino Vietti, who was actually competing up there with them. He's been racing this year, competing for the championship.
Celeste.
But he's wait till you see, like he's just been crashing a lot, and it's really sad because he does have the clear talent, but he just cannot keep it on track, and it's ridiculous. So he was up there for the first time in like a while, and again just crashed because you lose the front. But it's been happening so much for him. It's letting him down because he has the clear talent, and it's really frustrating. But Alonso Lopez getting that win, it's really deserved. He was fighting for the win. Well, he was basically leading the whole of the Silverstone race until the last lap, where he got overtaken by Augusto Fernandez, his fellow countryman. So he finally got his deserved win, like well deserved. And he was so happy. He broke his like front like wind mirrors, that's what they're called. He just started like smashing it. He was so happy.
Jesus.
Which is interesting celebration. But,
yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Why does it say that only 17 people finished out of 31 drivers?
It was chaos. Like, it was actually chaos.
I have no words, just chaos.
Just chaos. There was a messy start. There were three people down in the first lap, including Jake Dixon, Britain's Jake Dixon, which was really sad because it just wasn't his weekend this weekend. Luckily, he seems okay. He was holding his wrist as he was like coming off, which is quite daunting considering he's had a couple of wrist injuries previously. But he's okay, luckily. But yeah, for that it went well. For Min Aldeguer, special mention to him crashing, which was really sad because he seems to have that race again. He's like needs a win. Like he can get a win soon. He definitely deserves it. But Yeah, messy Moto2 as always, but wait till you go to Moto3.
Just as messy.
Even more chaos. Yeah, always chaos with Moto3. I said if you ever want to like actually have heart failure, watch Moto3. Like it's so chaos. The race result finished with that. So let me get it up. Was P1 Dennis Foggia winning his home race again. I think it's like either the third or fourth year that he's won that in a row. But he's really trying to get that like title fight back going because he was after last year, he should have been fully up there, like up there with your Isan Corferas, with your Sergio Garcias, but he just wasn't. But he like in the like second half of the year, he usually gets super like into it. So I think we could definitely see like a proper title fight from him. P2 was Drama Mazia back on the podium. Very happy for him. Very exciting. Literally like in like the last corner, like that last lap for them as well was super messy. He was like leading the race at one point and then just absolute chaos. P3 was Izan Guevara. Honestly, he's now the championship leader because of what happened to Sergio Garcia, which I will get onto. But I think he definitely could end up going for this championship. Like, he's been doing everything himself. Like, in qualifying, a big issue with Moto3 is the trying to get toes in qualifying. It's always chaos. People do get hurt from it, and they still don't learn. Penalties go out, never learning. And it's becoming really serious. But Isan is one of those people that will literally just do it by himself, and it is proved it works. So the fact that people still are trying to go for toes and stuff is very stupid. But yeah, hey ho.
I was wondering if you could get a toe in Moto, like MotoGP.
Oh,
like
yeah,
Moto2, Moto3.
they make a massive difference. I think they probably make more of a difference in bikes than they do in single seaters, just from like aerodynamic purposes. Because like on a bike, obviously it's just you and like the body and the bike. Like that is the aerodynamics. But yeah, like it makes such a big difference, especially in Moto3. But it has proved recently with the amount of like dawdling on the racing line. Penalties have been going out for it, but it doesn't make a difference. Yeah, my top note for Moto3 is just chaos as always. Another big thing was Dennis Onchu. He got pole. It was his. I want to say it's his first pole this season, but it's not. I think it's his second. But he's been struggling with a shoulder injury. So he got a shoulder injury in training, in the week off, and he has been struggling so much with it. It's unbelievable. He's been at the hospitals today. But after the race, you could see how much agony he was in, and he was you could tell he was like almost crying with it because he was in so much agony. And I mean, I don't think he should be riding like that, in my opinion, but we know like declaring people fit and unfit in MotoGP it's very messed up because they don't do the right protocols. But that's a whole nother thing to get onto. And then Sergio Garcia. So I obviously mentioned that he's not leading the championship anymore. What happened was he went off in the first lap. He had a little bit of a collision with Adrian Fernandez. They both came out fine. But he kept going in like mid-pack. And then he ended up going down, which was frustrating. Which was basically that was what lost him this championship lead, to his teammate as well, which can't feel good. And he kept going, but he kept going like a lap down, and getting in the way. So he ended up getting a black flag, and that's we haven't seen a black flag in racing like that for a while. So he ended up getting his black flag, ended up having to come in and still being disqualified, just for being in the way, basically. But it was definitely deserved. Like it was definitely a deserved black flag. But yeah. And then just Ayumu Sasaki's dreadful luck crashing out again. This time it wasn't fully his fault, which good, because he has been causing some stuff. But again, he is awful luck. You know, he crashed like at Silverstone. He crashed, and that was like literally in front of me. At the beginning of, I think was it Mugello? I can't remember whether it was Mugello or not. I think it was because of just everything surrounding that race. It felt awful as well. He was involved in a collision with Drummer Mazia in practice, basically getting run over. And yeah, that was dreadful, especially on Mugello weekend. But he needs so much more luck. He deserves it. He got his first win the other week, which was so great, and to see like Jake Dixon and Fabio like celebrating it with him in Austria was great. But hopefully he can keep that run of that little bit of luck going, hopefully.
Thank you guys for tuning in for episode 1 of Parked Up by Parc Fam. Parc Fam. Fuck's sake!
Come on, you got this. This is going to be a struggle for a long time, I feel like.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us for the first episode of Parc Fam. Oh my god! Thank you guys for joining us for episode 1 of Parked Up by Parc Fam. If you want to keep up to date with us on anything, you can watch and listen to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, and Apple. You can also keep up with us over on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or TikTok. They're all ParcFem_, except Facebook because they're all called don't I have an underscore, so it's just ParcFem. Or over on our website, parcfem.co.uk, where you'll see a bunch of different run up bits, different ways to get in contact with us and join us on our mission to be more inclusive, bring more inclusivity, I should say, into motorsport. But yeah, thank you guys for stopping by. Don't forget to give it a little like, not subscribe. Don't know what it's like on Spotify and stuff. Like it, follow everything.
Add it to your library.
Add it to the library, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.